Let's move on to some other news. U.S. Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner says the world needs to reform financial supervision and economic policies to create more balance and stability in the global economy. He also offered backing for a larger role for China in policymaking at the international level. Tim Geithner was speaking at Peking University, where he studied Chinese as a student in the 1980s. This is Mr. Geithner's first trip to China as the U.S. Treasury Chief. He will meet with Chinese leaders as the two sides exchange views on a whole number of issues. These will include the financial crisis and bilateral cooperation. Preparations will also be made for the first round of the China-U.S. strategic and economic dialogue. Now, for more insights on Timothy Geithner's visit to China, we are joined on the phone by Senior Research Fellow Professor Cao Wenzhao from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. It's good to have you on the show, Professor Cao.
Hi.
Yes, hello. Yes, we've heard a great deal. We saw in that report several points being made about what Tim Geithner hopes to achieve on this visit to China. Now, what is your take on his purpose on this visit?
I think Secretary Timothy Geithner is going to discuss with the Chinese leaders and with his counterparts on a number of issues. For instance, how China and the United States can cooperate to overcome the present difficulties and to get the whole world economy out of the financial crisis, and how China and the U.S. can work together for the future stable world economic growth, and also world financial system reform and the energy issue are also on his agenda. And as you just suggested, in the next couple of months there will be a first strategic and economic dialogue between China and the United States under the Obama administration. So he's also made preparation for that dialogue.
Oh, thank you, Professor Cao. Well, those are generic issues. If we try and focus on some specific issues, do you think he will touch on the more sensitive issues of exchange rate, yuan appreciation, and the trade imbalance between the United States and China?
Oh, yes. China and the United States used to discuss about these kind of issues, RMB exchange rate and trade imbalance, etc. But I think these issues are not the major issues on his agenda. Actually, we discussed it before, and we can discuss later on. But this time, I think how to strengthen the cooperation between the two countries to deal with the financial crisis is the most important thing. And at present, I think not for such an important currency like U.S. dollar and China's RMB, or for other currencies like euro or Japanese yen, I think the most important thing is to keep the currency stable. Appreciation or devaluation of any major world currency is detrimental to the present economic situation.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your views, Professor Cao Wenzhao from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences.
The visiting U.S. Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner has delivered a speech at Peking University. Geithner stressed that China plays an important role in establishing a more balanced and stable economic order. He also says bilateral cooperation is vital for recovery and growth. Zhang Lu reports.
This is Geithner's first visit to China since taking office. The new secretary values the China-U.S. economic ties as much as his predecessors. In the face of global economic difficulty, Geithner says cooperation is vital for laying a good foundation for future growth.
A successful transition to a more balanced, stable global economy is going to require very substantial changes to economic policy and to financial regulation around the world. But some of the most important of those changes are going to have to come in China and in the United States. How successful we are in Washington and in Beijing will be critically important to the economic fortunes of the rest of the world. And the effectiveness of U.S. policies will depend in part on China's and the effectiveness of yours on ours. And critical to our long-term...
The Secretary says the necessary changes will come in different ways. Americans will have to increase their savings rate, and the fiscal deficit must be brought down. And for China, He thinks the priority is to expand domestic consumption. International cooperation is another focus of the Secretary. He says it's just as important as addressing domestic challenges. He says the U.S. will help to put in place a stronger global financial system and will fully support China to play a bigger role.
As part of this process of reform, the United States will fully support having China play a role in the principal cooperative arrangements that help shape the international financial system, a role commensurate with China's importance in the global economy. I believe that a greater role for China is necessary for China, it's necessary for the effectiveness of these international institutions, and it's necessary for the world economy.
Geithner stressed that China and the U.S., individually and together, are important in the global economy and financial systems. Both sides agree that joint efforts should be made in a concerted way for common prosperity.
Faced with the global downturn, China and the U.S. have different plans to revive growth. But as vital partners, they are willing to find common ground for cooperation to meet the shared challenges. Difference and difficulties may occur from time to time, so ensuring constructive and sustainable relations is in the interests of both parties in the long run. Zhang Lu, CCTV, Beijing.